Alright, going through a hunter attack right now. Going through 2? I think I'm going through 2. I hear him. Oh, there he is. Ouch! Let's get that there. Where are you, you little bastard? Ah, you fucker. Stop moving. There's one down. That was a headshot. There's 2 down. As far as I know, they did not use any grenade-tipped arrows. As far as I know. And I believe that was the hunters from right over there. Now, grenade damage base-wise... I swear I could have just heard one. Base damage from the grenades foundation-wise, just under 200 on this leg. Just a little over 200 on that one. A bunch of free loot at the cost of some arrows. Can I see my other arrow? Yeah. Little over 100 damage on that leg. I know that is a terrible spot for that. 30 damage to that. Now, the one thing I have noticed, and I really have no way of fixing this other than upgrading the floor of my base to metal, is, and mind the gap, makeshift drawbridge, ink, ingenious, I know. This is the only bad part. Now granted, that's still only about 113 damage from a grenade that was down on the ground, probably somewhere over there or over there. This one took a bit of damage. That's the only thing I'm noticing. And to be honest, oh god. To be honest, I think that needs to be changed, because if you come down here and look at this, those grenades are landing somewhere between that pillar, that pillar, that pillar, that pillar, and there. So they're landing somewhere in this square, and it is a perfect square. They're landing somewhere in this square on the ground, be it on the ground over here after bouncing off this wall or any of the walls. They may roll to, you know, somewhere in here, but they are dealing damage all the way up there, which I measured it, and it's about 2.5 walls high off the ground. For a grenade that's sitting anywhere down here, from right here, about the size of that box, that's a massive range, and should probably be fixed. And now I'm being chased. But yeah, so that was a hunter attack. I'm pretty sure they didn't use any grenade-tipped arrows, as the explosion didn't sound like it. The 2 explosions didn't sound like they were particularly close to me, and it did sound like the grenades hit a wall and then fell to the ground both times. So yeah, this is a non-floating, grounded base, properly suspended, that is not targetable by the hunters with grenade-tipped arrows. They will not use grenade-tipped arrows because where they target you from, up here, if there's a base over there, if they come from there, they'll stop anywhere from where that wolf is there to right in there, and they may run to over here. That is close enough for them to chuck regular grenades and fire at you with regular weapons. They will not use the grenade-tipped arrows. Same goes for this side. The hunters will be just in front of that rock there, right in there, up to about right there. And that's still close enough and within their coded range for using grenades versus the grenade-tipped arrows. So the problem that people are having with getting completely destroyed by hunters with grenade-tipped arrows, I would say, is because their bases are either floating in the air outside of that range, or their targeted BCU is much too high off the ground. This BCU right here, well, and the light, is the only thing I have floating in my base. And the BCU itself is about maybe three walls high off the ground, which is still well within range of regular grenades. So if people are really having problems with hunters using grenade-tipped arrows to attack them, they need to rethink their bases. There's plenty of us in the community that are already of agreement that floating bases are just stupid. There's no structural integrity, no even Fox realism in a video game. It just doesn't make sense. Now, granted, in the past, especially with multiplayer, it may be smart to prevent other players, but I have a feeling that Cold Games implemented this specifically as an answer for hunters against players that were using those kinds of mechanics. And I really think that's what it is. I don't think it's a step towards more focus on PvP or anything like that. I mean, granted, it can be used that way, and hell, I mean, it can be used to go out there and do what I'm going to basically do with grenade-tipped arrows, which is hunt rabbits. That's gonna be a sport. It's gonna be my sport, and yeah. But I think the primary reason he did it was to allow the hunters some kind of strategy against players that are deliberately trying to basically cheese them. And so far it would seem that it has worked, as players have reported that it has worked. So, yeah, as you can see, they threw two grenades. And all these three walls here will take roughly maybe 2 to 3 logs each to repair. These right here will take about maybe 4 or 5 to repair. They get a little less back here. This one took no damage, even though that one took damage. That one took damage. This one took damage, and that one didn't. But this one did. So for some reason these two were safe over here. Don't know why, but I guess it'll have to include more testing. At one point I went directly under this BCU down at the ground, threw a grenade, it exploded and damaged each one of these ceiling pieces right here that you can see, and did about roughly 10 to 30 damage to each of the pillar foundations that make up the corners. The blast radius on grenades is ridiculous. And from what I've heard, and from a few tests I've done myself, the blast radius of grenades is even greater inside a body of water. So if your base is over water or partially in water, expect to take heavy damage from grenades and grenade-tipped arrows. But I can tell you right now, if your base and the BCU and yourself when you're fighting the hunters is within this kind of range with the hunters on the ground, you're not going to see grenade-tipped arrows from the hunters. That attack that just happened right there has been the 3rd attack by one of these hunters, and none of the 3 times have they used grenade-tipped arrows. So the problem people are having is purely from floating bases or bases that are too high off the ground. And that's just going to have to be something that players adapt to. There's nothing we can do about it. It's obviously the direction that Cold Games wants to take with it. Whether he tweaks it some or not, who knows, but players just need to adapt. People need to cry a little less about it. Stop overreacting as much. I mean, even in the update itself, there are far bigger things that make so much more less sense than grenade-tipped arrows, and people are just making it out to seem like it's the worst thing ever. It's not. And I'm not 100% sure on this. I need to do testing. I've asked Critical to do some testing on this. Somebody needs to do testing to see if putting the bow inside the workbench with the trick to get it in there to upgrade its power, if that affects the damage of grenade-tipped arrows. Because if it does, then players, if they upgrade their bows, will always have an advantage over hunters that do use them themselves, because hunters do not upgrade their weapons as of yet. But yeah, so that's going to be it for this video. I was actually planning a slightly different video, but I was standing about here during sunrise looking around at a few things, and then out of the corner of my eye, just over there, I saw a hunter. And I was like, oh shit, I'm getting raided. I should probably start this video now so that I can catch a raid on video and show that this base is impervious to grenade-tipped arrows, because the hunters never select them. Now hopefully, what Rebalder has said in the Steam forums about Cold Games seeing people's bases and then tweaking the game for the hunters' benefit to be able to fight those bases, hopefully that doesn't happen with this, because just this outer piece right here, this is the actual wall of my base, and the foundations are right here where these roof pieces are. Just this outer wall here, which doesn't include that back side, which I do need to add a piece there, because I have a feeling that's why those floors are getting so damaged. But just this alone, and this ring on top, has taken me like 4 or 5 real life days, to get completed and all set up and tweaked, you know, with the various knowledge of, you know, how hunters target you at your base that I had already previously known. And that's another thing. If you are not at your base when hunters get there, they will target the base. They won't target you. But if you're at your base when the hunters target the base and arrive at the base, when they go to throw grenades or use weapons, they will throw them at or towards you. They will not, you know, if they're down there, they're not going to chuck a grenade down onto the ground over there. They're going to chuck a grenade, and it is going to land on the wall roughly about that height. Same with all their weapons. All weapons fire will damage. If my head is right there, all weapons fire damage will be right here. It's not going to be down anywhere below that. So you know, seriously, the people that are having trouble and problems with this, I mean, that didn't even take damage. I mean, I've got foundation, I've got ceilings there, and there that took damage. These two didn't. This took 30 points of damage, and that took none. That was already damaged before they raided. So, yeah. But that's going to be it for this video. I've got a bunch of other things that I wanted to do, and I still want to make a proper video on it to, I guess, kind of go over the technique, because there are some parts of this, especially the corners of these walls right here. These are actually quarter walls that I had to stack, and they were a little bit of a pain in the ass to stack like that, and get them to attach to the walls that make up that. And then as far as these walls here, I mean, let's just run over quickly, because we know these took a lot of damage. This wall here only took 104 points of damage. Yeah, 104 points of damage. 140 points of damage. So, you know, obviously the grenades landed a little closer to this side. We go to that, that's 274, and this is 134. So yeah, obviously the grenades landed a little closer to this side, and they did attack me from this side, so most damage is going to be over here. And what is odd is that the hunters that came from this side, they are in an extremely odd spot, and I've been giving the hunters and kind of cold games by proxy a lot of shit for the hunters pathing and how bad it is. And I mean, yeah, you can build a wall in their way and they will get... Okay, that's music. And they will get stuck, but the hunter's base is right there. When they come to attack me, if you're standing here and looking over there, you would assume that they would just kind of run down here like that and, you know, wind up somewhere over there. But no. Even though it requires going through these obstacles right here in this area, this rock and that rock, that rock and that rock, they somehow manage to go from there down through here to over there. Even though, realistically, it looks like they should just be running straight from over there all the way down here to that side over there. But they don't. I mean, that's actually pretty decent pathing. I mean, personally, I'm thinking of putting some foundations down in here and putting some walls to see if this section here being blocked off either makes them come from over here or go around all the way over there. And that'll be part of probably of another video. But it's their pathing, I will say, is obviously not that bad. If they're going through giant obstacles like this to get to a specific side, I don't know if there's a reason why they're going to that side versus that side. I don't know. I mean, my base is 100% symmetrical, so there is no advantage for any side that you go to. I mean, the only advantage difference would be, and this is somewhat of a tiny worry to me, but the only advantage would be coming right there, because you can just walk right up it, and then they could get here and just keep walking up. I've had a bear do that. I actually had a bear do that maybe, I don't know, hour and a half ago. He came up there, got to about here, got stuck, and just started trashing that ceiling piece. But, so their pathing really isn't all that terrible. You know, there's some discussions in the community going on about whether or not setting up free-floating walls that have been attached to platforms and then the platforms removed. There's been discussion of whether or not that's an exploit or simply, I don't know, maybe using a game mechanic that hasn't been, say, properly coded or used for the hunters. And I mean, I don't know, I almost want to say it's an exploit, because the hunter pathing itself, I mean, I guess it's as good as can be expected. I mean, but with that example, to see them come, I mean, let's look at that for a minute. If my BCU is right there, so we'll stand directly over it. There's the hunter base right there. Okay, now if I walk straight over here, they've got a zigzag right through there to even get over here. So, I mean, that's pretty decent pathing for, you know... Oh well, I mean... Oh god, what was that? That's not good. Oh, I had that running. That was dumb. Now I need to make sure this is turned on. That was almost nearly catastrophic. But anyway, at this point, it's kind of just a ramble. You know, is building free-floating walls an exploit? Considering that, you know, for the most part, the players that are saying that it's not an exploit are saying in their defense that, you know, the mechanics of the hunters only stretch so far. Well, here's the fact of the matter. As the experienced players, we already know the kind of limits the hunter's pathing already has as far as the code itself goes. Knowing that, and then acting on the game on that knowledge, that's technically an exploit. You know, exploits definably are taking mechanics and using them in ways that were not originally intended. That's what an exploit is. Using free-floating walls, which, who knows, at some point we may have structural integrity in the game. Rest in pieces, all the fucking floating bases. But let's say structural integrity is intended in the long term. Free-floating walls to block hunters, knowing full well that their code, their pathing code, will simply not be able to work around it, that is an exploit by definition. That is an exploit of the wall mechanics and the hunter mechanics. So, yes, I'm sorry, Zool, and whoever else is arguing for it not being an exploit. It is an exploit. It is an exploit in the simplest fashion. You know, it's taking one mechanic and using it in a way that was most likely not intended by the developer. That's what an exploit is. It's an exploit. I mean, should players feel bad for doing it? I mean, hell no. I mean, the hunters have grenade-tipped arrows, for fuck's sake, now. You know, so, I mean, if that's what you need to do to be able to survive, do it. But, I mean, beyond that, there are bigger fucking fish to fry. I mean, I'm not even going to get started on the medicinal plants right now. I'm going to do a separate video. I'm actually probably going to do a stream about the medicinal plants because... and I think Zool agrees with me on this, the medicinal plants being added to the plant bed is probably one of the most useless things that has ever been added to the game. All of this right here, minus 8 plants, has all been collected from the world. 3/4 of what is here, minus those 8 plants, was collected within the past 8 hours of real time. There's simply no reason. And one animal fat equals 3 fuel. 8 of these, which is what you get per seed, equals 2 fuel. Not worth it. At no point is that worth it. You can take a shotgun and 1 shotgun shell and go out and kill a wolf and get anywhere from, what, 1 to 4 animal fat? That completely far outweighs the medicinal plants. And that's all I'm going to say on it right now. It's useless. It's pointless. I can't say much about the BCU cracker. I've already said in the forums that actually seems like a neat idea. You know, and people have made the argument that, you know, if you don't want to move all of your hunters by turning them off and then turning them back on, you know, the BCU cracker is perfect. You know, if you just want to move one specific hunter somewhere else on the map, the BCU cracker is going to be perfect for those kinds of players. Me personally, I probably won't use it. You know, I mean, I've got a hunter all the way over there and one over there. Ideally, I'd have one somewhere up there, you know, to give this side some love. And I've kind of made myself immune from this side because there's already a base there. I mean, the only other spot the next base would probably go is like maybe right there, which is, I've seen one there before in other playthroughs, but that's about it. Anyway, at this point it's rambling, and yes, I know this right here probably isn't the smartest defense ever. With that said, through all of that fighting and whatnot with those hunters, I mean, like, 2 walls took damage, and they took like anywhere from, you know, 20 to 10 damage. You know, I am going to be upgrading them to metal because, you know, obviously for the easier repair costs and whatnot. But the idea is, one, I'm wearing a helmet, so headshots aren't going to do nearly as much damage as they would normally do. And 2, with this right here, the hunters, wherever they come from, are going to stop about where that bear is to start shooting at me, and may run to about there or so to throw grenades. And those grenades... Oh, and this is a cool trick if you didn't know this with half walls. If you just go straight up to them, crouch, and then walk forward, you go right on top of it. It's kind of broken, as we saw with the raid. But those grenades are never going to go any higher than about right there, basically where this half wall meets the ceiling. that's about as far as grenades will go. And as you saw in that raid, I was getting shot at a bunch, and I only got hit maybe like once or twice, even though my head was poking out. And with the half walls, if you need to reload or you realize you're taking a little more damage than you need to, you just crouch down. And if you're right next to the wall and you crouch down, I mean, that's what they still see. But because of how close they stand, which is about there or closer, they're really not going to be able to hit you. So the majority of the gunfire is going to hit your base, and gunfire damage on built objects is ridiculously low. And what? Oh, that's steak. I was like, what is that? But so I think that's gonna be it for this one. This is not the video I wanted to make. I wanted to make a nice proper one. There's going to be nice classical music standing here, and I was going to be looking over this way, and the sky was going to get brighter, and then the sun was going to come up, and I was going to turn around all dramatic like, and there'd be this beautiful sunrise over this magnificent base that's basically completely impervious to grenade-tipped arrows as far as I know. And then Hunter was just like, yeah, no, fuck you. Fuck your video. So, yeah, now I have to go and collect more wood to do the very minimal repairs that I need to do, and once this is all upgraded to actual metal, it'll be even less of a problem, because, 150 damage to metal. 150 damage to metal. Yeah, 150 damage to a metal wall is going to be nothing. It's going to take them, like, what? Oh, well, 10 grenades to get through it, And they simply just don't come with that many grenades. And they're not going to stand down there and use a grenade-tipped arrow on something right here. So, all in all, people, keep calm and be patient, basically. That's basically the gist of it. Is just keep calm, and if you're one of the unfortunate people that built a floating base over a pond, or a floating base just somewhere randomly, or simply have your BCU 2 to 3 times higher than what this is, I mean, I hate to say it, because as soon as the update came out and people started complaining about the grenade-tipped arrows, I made a forum post basically ripping them a new one, because to my knowledge at the time, it was going to make, about maybe cumulative, maybe about 15 hours worth of planning, gathering resources, and building completely useless. I had hunters turned off while I was building this, and once the update came out, I was like, oh my god, I don't want to turn them on, because I'm like 99% sure that I'm going to stand up there and I'm going to be just outside of their regular grenade range. And that was not the case. They used regular grenades that they threw. Didn't use any grenade-tipped arrows. Granted, I didn't let them live very long, so maybe they would have eventually switched over to them after they ran out of all their other ammo. But who knows? Who knows? I guess that's a test for another day. I'm kind of surprised I wasn't attacked by both hunters, which is a little strange. Oh, they might be dead. That bear might have killed them. We'll have to go check that out. But, yeah. That's going to be it for this video. I might make more, and eventually I will go on about how I accomplished this. These pillars right here was actually the longest, toughest part, just because of how tedious it was. But for the most part, if you just build 4 foundations, you can align them like this, as in perfectly aligned and symmetrical, without too much trouble. Primarily because we've got the, pick up and move the placed objects function now, which, speaking of, being that it's nighttime, makeshift drawbridge. That's like the best idea I ever had, because now, if a hunter was to come over here, if this piece was here, and he just happened to throw a grenade up here, it would land, it would land against this wall and door and fall down there and blow up and do damage to all of this stuff right here. But because there's a hole there, it just falls down. So that was like probably the most ingenious part of this entire base, was having that in there. But yeah, so now the sun's going down to some nice classical music. It's getting all nice looking outside, and yeah, we're gonna make sure we don't starve to death, and yeah, make another video later. So thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and hope you learned something. If anybody has any questions about the base or about the hunter mechanics as they are right now, I say that because we don't know if Cold Games is going to change them at all within like the next week or two, depending on feedback from the forums. But if people have questions about any of that stuff now, feel free to ask. You can friend me on Steam, send me questions. I will be doing a stream sometime tomorrow. I'll be posting a link for the stream in the Steam discussions, and encourage people to come and ask questions and just talk about the game, where they'd like to see it go, feature suggestions, all that. I will be using stuff like that people talk about. I will be making another thread in the Steam forums for the game, basically to collect all those ideas and thoughts and, put pen to paper, so to speak, so that, people can see all those ideas, and so that Cold Games can know just how interested we are in the game. And I don't know, this update, I think with this update, what a lot of us need to do, myself included, is just take a deep breath, exhale slowly, and just take a step back for a little bit, Take a step back, maybe play something else if it's just not to your liking, and just give it time. Be patient, give it time, and, I mean, that's all we can really do. All we can do is hope for the best and see what comes. And as a few other people have said, and even some that, are against this update, Cold Games hasn't really disappointed in the past, so at this point it's kind of a, well, we need to wait and see where this update leads. Could it lead down that dark, depressing road of this becoming just another PvP game, or, as Ribalder puts it, basically Battlefield in the Forest? I mean, it could. It very well could. Obviously, that new hunter base location over there noted. So, like, from this corner, looks slightly that way, and it's right over there. Okay, cool. Glad I caught that. I don't think I would have noticed that if I had not been. I did see a light, right? I don't think I was seeing things. I'm gonna have to go over there and check. But sometimes these particle effects make me think there's a fire. But yeah, now I'm just going on and on. Oh yeah, no. Wait. Well. Oh, maybe it. I don't know. I'll have to go check. It might have just been one of the hunters from over there. But yeah. Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. It's probably pretty hard to see now at this point. I've got power, right? Yeah, I've got power. Oh, and this is awesome. Like, and the way I lined it up, it's like right over one of the buttons and is essentially, perfectly aligned in that space. So it kind of almost looks like it belongs. I mean, not the floating BCU. I had originally done that to center the BCU in my base, so that the hunters would take an equal approach to every side of my base as far as trying to get to the BCU. And I think that's an important little note, that players with floating bases or bases that are getting targeted by grenade-tipped arrows, I think that's another important note. I'm apparently not malnourished for like the first time in this playthrough. How many of those do I have in there? 15? Eat all of those. And eat like 3 of those. I don't care. Drink some water. Stupid malnourished person. But that is another point. If you have, say this BCU is over on this wall. Now say there's a hunter coming from that direction. They're going to still try to target this BCU. And if their only option is to target it from over there versus going to some other side, there is a very good chance that they might take out the grenade-tipped arrows to target it if it's too far away in their coding to target with a normal grenade throw. Again, vertically, just can't believe I did that. I mean, I can believe I did that, but I can't believe I did that. Vertically, their grenade throw distance, if they're targeting you above them, if you're standing up there and they're standing here, their grenade is only going to land about 3/4 of the way up. So about probably 3, maybe 3.5 walls high. Just about, you know, straight vertically up. That's, and I'm fairly certain that's also the same range for their horizontal targeting. Could be a little greater horizontally because the arc of the grenade throw would probably make it go a little farther. This should be interesting. Son of a bitch. Well, that went so terribly wrong, and I could be about to get raided by a hunter. But that could be a very large problem that people may be having. Your BCU may just be placed in a way that they target it that way.